As I grew, Jerry continued, voice low, so only the small circle around him could hear. The memories came back in pieces. A woman's voice singing me to sleep. The smell of your pepper soup. The way you used to call me Jerry. Come chop. From the veranda. I knew I had a mother somewhere. I just didn't know where. He swallowed hard. I hired people. Private investigators. I searched for 20 years. Every lead ended in nothing. Until 3 months ago. One of my drivers stopped here for lunch and saw you. He took a picture, didn't even know why. Just thought you looked like someone who used to be important to me. When he showed it to me, Mama, I knew. Even with the gray hair, even with the years, I knew it was you. Mama Hannah's hands shook as she touched his face again and again, as if checking he was real. I thought I buried my only child, she whispered. I visit that empty grave every year on your birthday and cry like a madwoman. Jerry's tears fell onto her wrapper. I'm sorry, Mama. I'm so sorry. Amara, standing behind them, felt her own eyes burning. She had fed Mama Hannah every day for 8 years, never knowing the old woman carried this size of grief. Jessica was openly sobbing now, clinging to her mother's skirt. Jerry looked up at Amara for the first time, really looked at her. You kept my mother alive, he said, voice thick. You fed her when she had nothing. You gave her a chair in the shade when the sun was wicked. You called her Mama when the whole world forgot she had a name. He reached into his suit jacket and pulled out a simple key attached to a small wooden key holder, carved in the shape of a fish, the same kind Mama Hannah used to sell in the market decades ago. This is yours, he said, pressing it into Amara's stained, trembling hand. A house, 4 bedrooms, on the new estate in Gras. Title is in your name and Jessica's names. No rent, no loan, paid in full. Amara stared at the key like it might bite her. Sir, I can't. You already did, he cut in gently. You gave my mother back her dignity. Now I'm giving you rest. He turned to the crowd that had grown to almost 100 people. Phones up, recording, crying, cheering. And for everyone here, whoever bought a plate from this woman, whoever greeted Mama Hannah, whoever spared a kind word, thank you. Today this canopy becomes a proper restaurant. Groundbreaking is next month. Same spot, same name. Mama Hannah's kitchen. I will build it. You will eat free on opening day. A roar went up. Someone started singing a Thanksgiving song. Others joined. Drums appeared from nowhere. The dusty street turned into celebration. But in the middle of it all, Jerry helped his mother stand. She was weak, legs shaky from shock and joy, but her face glowed like sunrise. She reached out blindly until her hands found Amara's face. My daughter, Mama Hannah said, voice strong now. You fed me when I was nothing. Today God has fed you through my son. May your children never know hunger. May your name be blessed forever. Amara fell to her knees right there in the dust and pepper soup steam, hugging the old woman's waist, crying so hard she couldn't speak. Jessica threw her arms around both of them, and Jerry, billionaire survivor, long-lost son, stood with his arms around the 3 women who had kept his mother alive, while the whole of Port Harcourt sang and danced under a torn canopy that suddenly felt like the roof of heaven itself. Sometimes the miracle arrives in 3 black SUVs, sometimes it arrives wearing an apron and carrying a serving spoon, and sometimes love simply refuses to let go, even when memory is lost, even when hope is buried in an empty grave. That afternoon, nobody ate cold food. Plates were passed, meat was shared, strangers embraced, and Mama Hannah, who had once been invisible, sat in the place of honor while her son fed her with his own hands, the way she had fed him when he was small. The pepper soup was hot, the tears were hotter, and the story of the day the billionaire knelt in the dust traveled faster than any convoy, all the way across Nigeria and beyond, because some debts can never be repaid. They can only be honored with a lifetime of gratitude. Mama Hannah lay propped against white pillows, an oxygen tube under her nose, skin still ashen but eyes wide open and shining. When Amara stepped inside, the old woman's face broke into the brightest smile Amara had ever seen on her. My daughter, Mama Hannah whispered, voice thin but alive. Come close. Amara hurried to the bed and knelt, just the way she used to kneel to serve her food under the torn canopy. Mama Hannah reached out with trembling fingers and touched Amara's cheek, tracing it like she was reading Braille. You kept me alive, she said. Every plate of rice, every spoon of stew, every time you said, Mama Hannah, sit here in the shade. You kept me alive so I could see my son again. Tears poured down Amara's face. I only gave you what any person deserves. No, Mama Hannah said firmly, squeezing her hand with surprising strength. You gave me love when I had forgotten I was still human. That is not any person. That is an angel wearing apron. She pulled Amara's head down until their foreheads touched. God will never forget this thing you did, she whispered. I am old woman. I have seen plenty, but I know. Amara could only nod, throat to full for words. Mama Hannah smiled again, softer now. Tell that big boy outside to stop shaking. Tell him his mama is not going anywhere tonight. Amara laughed through her tears. I will tell him. She stood, wiped her face with the edge of her wrapper, and opened the door. Jerry was leaning against the wall, head bowed, hands clasped so tightly his knuckles were white. Jessica stood beside him, small hand resting on his arm like she was holding him up. Amara smiled. She's waiting for you, and she says stop shaking. Jerry let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob, and rushed past her into the room. Jessica slipped her hand into Amara's. Mummy, is this really happening? Amara looked down at her daughter, then through the glass at Jerry kneeling by his mother's bed, pressing her hand to his face exactly the way Mama Hannah had done to her minutes ago. Yes, my love, Amara said. This is God paying a debt we didn't even know we were owed. An hour later, Mama Hannah was moved to a private ward overlooking the city lights. Jerry had already arranged everything. The best cardiologist, a nutritionist, a physiotherapist, even a barber to come and make Mama fine again. Before they left the ER, he pulled Amara aside. I meant what I said earlier, he told her quietly. The house is yours, the restaurant is yours, and Jessica's school fees, primary to university, are covered. Everything. Amara started to protest again, but he raised a gentle hand. You didn't save my mother for reward, he said, but God keeps perfect records. Let the reward find you. He glanced at Jessica, who was watching with huge, hopeful eyes. And one more thing, he added, smiling for the first time all day. Mama Hannah says she is not leaving that hospital until she walks out on your arm and mine together. She has decided we are family now. Amara laughed, tears starting all over again. She has always been stubborn. Jerry nodded. Good. Stubborn people live long. That night, under the canopy that was no longer torn, workers had already arrived to replace it with a proper roof before sunset. The community gathered again, but this time they didn't come to eat. They came to pray, to sing, to dance, to cry happy tears. And high above them, in a hospital room glowing soft and warm, an old woman who had once been thrown away held her son's hand and whispered the same words over and over. Thank you, God. Thank you for bringing my child home. And thank you for the daughter who kept the light on until he found his way. Sometimes miracles arrive in black SUVs. Sometimes they wear aprons and smell like pepper soup. And sometimes they simply refuse to let an old woman eat her supper alone. Port Harcourt would talk about that day for years. But Mama, Hannah, Amara, Jessica, and Jerry, they didn't talk. They just lived the rest of their lives proving that love, quiet, stubborn, everyday love is the loudest sound heaven ever makes. Amara stared at her hands, the old burn scar on her thumb suddenly aching like it remembered the day Johnson kissed it and promised her the world. Jerry listened without interrupting. When she finished, he spoke so softly she almost missed it. 3 years ago, Port Harcourt, Lagos Road. A man and his driver, attacked by armed men. Amara's heart stopped. Jerry turned to her, eyes wide, voice trembling. The driver died on the spot. The passenger was shot twice, left for dead. A farmer found him barely breathing and carried him to a clinic. Severe head trauma. Amnesia for years. Amara couldn't breathe. Jerry reached slowly into the inner pocket of his senator jacket and pulled out a worn, cracked leather wallet. He opened it with shaking fingers. Inside was a small, faded photograph creased down the middle, edges soft from years of being touched. A man in a simple shirt, smiling wide, arm around a younger Amara holding baby Jessica on her hip. Amara made a sound that wasn't human. That man woke up not knowing his own name. Jerry whispered. The farmer who saved him called him Jerry because he kept murmuring Jessica, Jessica, in his sleep. I thought it was my name. I lived as Jerry for 20 years, until the memories finally came back. He looked at her, tears falling freely now. Amara, my real name is Johnson. The world tilted. Amara stared at the face in the photograph, her husband's face, then at the man beside her, older, wealthier, scarred by bullets and time, but the eyes were the same. The same gentle eyes that used to watch her cook under that same torn canopy. Johnson, she choked. He nodded, unable to speak. She touched his cheek with trembling fingers, tracing the faint scar near his temple she had never seen before. You bought me white roses, she whispered. Every anniversary, he finished, voice breaking. I didn't know why I kept doing it. I just knew they were important. Amara let out a sob that came from the bottom of her soul and threw herself into his arms. He held her like a drowning man holds the shore, repeating her name over and over, like a prayer he had forgotten he knew. Outside, Port Harcourt kept moving Okadas, market women, school children, none of them knowing that inside the black SUV crawling through their streets, a husband had just come home to his wife, after 3 years, in the grave of forgotten memory. When they reached the hospital, Johnson, no longer Jerry, carried the bouquet of white roses himself. He walked into Mama Hannah's room first, knelt by her bed, and placed Amara's hand in his mother's. Mama, he said, tears falling onto the blanket. I brought your daughter home. Mama Hannah, weak but smiling wider than the sun, squeezed both their hands together. Then she looked up at the ceiling and laughed, a small, hoarse, perfect laugh. God, she whispered, you know they ever late. And somewhere outside the window, under the same hot Port Harcourt sun that had watched Amara cook alone for 3 long years, white roses bloomed in the hospital garden, though no one had planted them there. Some miracles take 20 years and 3 black SUVs. Some take 1 plate of hot jollof rice, given without question, and some, the very best ones, simply wait until the right heart is ready, then bring everybody home at once. They found us chained in a bush camp near Hillel, Johnson said, voice rough from years of silence. There were 6 of us still alive. They had been moving us from camp to camp, using us for ransom videos that never got sent, for labor, for whatever they felt like that day. He looked down at his wrists, thin white scars, circling them like bracelets. When the police came, I thought they would shoot us too, but one officer recognized me from the old missing person poster. They cut the chains. They wrapped me in a blanket. The first thing I asked was, do Amara and Jessica still sell food by the road? The officer started crying. He said, Olga, your wife never closed that canopy for 1 day. She still cooks every morning. Amara made a sound that was half sob, half laugh, and pressed her forehead to his chest. Johnson held her tighter. They brought me to a hospital first, he continued. I was too weak to stand. Then this morning, this man, he turned to Jerry, eyes wet. This man walked in with soldiers and said, your family is waiting. Let's go home. I thought I was dreaming again. Jerry smiled, small and tired and full. I told you I would find him, he said simply. I keep my promises. Mama Hannah reached out from the bed and took Johnson's hand, then Amara's, then Jessica's, linking them all. Now look, she whispered, voice trembling with joy. Every lost child is back. Every broken heart is mended. God no day sleep. Jessica, caught between her parents for the first time in 3 years, looked up at Jerry. Uncle Jerry, she said, you gave me my daddy back. Jerry knelt, so they were eye to eye. No, little doctor, he answered. Your mummy gave me my mummy back first. We just completed the circle. Outside the window, the sun climbed higher over Port Harcourt, shining on a city that now had a new favorite story. The roadside cook who fed a forgotten widow every day. The billionaire who knelt in the dust to say thank you. The husband who came home after 3 years in chains. And the little girl who would never again have to wonder if her father loved her. 1 month later, Kindness Restaurant opened its doors. 3 stories, glass walls, a rooftop garden, and a giant portrait on the wall of Mama Hannah and Amara, laughing together under the old torn canopy. Johnson stood at the entrance in a simple white shirt, greeting every guest like they were family. Jessica, in her new school uniform, handed out flyers that read, "Come hungry, leave happy. Kindness is always on the house." And at the ribbon cutting, Mama Hannah, strong now, cheeks round again, eyes bright, held the scissors with Amara on one side and Johnson on the other. When the ribbon fell, the crowd roared. But Mama Hannah raised one hand for silence, then spoke the only words that mattered. Today, no be about building. Today be about people way, no forget people. If you chop here today, remember, 1 plate of food fit bring back person way, Dan die. 1 kind word fit open doorway lock for 20 years. Never close your hand when person day hungry, because you know the hand you feed today fit be the same hand way go carry you tomorrow. She looked at Jerry, at Johnson, at Amara, at Jessica. Then she smiled, the biggest smile Port Harcourt had ever seen. Kindness now the only debtway, God himself, day pay with plenty interest. And somewhere in the crowd, a woman who used to mock Amara's small canopy wiped her eyes and bought 10 plates of jollof rice for strangers she had never spoken to before. Because some lessons are too beautiful to keep to yourself, and some families are built, not by blood, but by the quiet, stubborn refusal to let another human being eat alone. His circle closed quietly, the way the very best stories do. Years after the wedding, on a calm Sunday morning, the whole family gathered under the mango tree in the Garden of Kindness restaurant's first branch, now a place people visited like a shrine. Amara, silver threading her braids, rocked the youngest grandchild on her lap. Johnson, strong again, carved wooden toys with the same gentle hands that once wore chains. Mama Hannah, 90 now but fierce as ever, sat in her favorite chair, eyes closed, listening to the laughter of great-grandchildren the way other people listen to music. Jessica, Dr. Jessica Jerry, moved between patients in the free clinic she had built next door. White coat bright, stethoscope swinging, saving lives the way her mother once saved souls with plates of pepper soup. And Jerry, no longer billionaire, just husband, just father, just son, stood watching them all, hands in his pockets, heart finally still. Jessica walked over and slipped her arm through his fit. "You look like a man who's waiting for something," she teased. He smiled, the soft one only she ever saw. "I'm not waiting anymore," he said. "Everything I lost came back, and everything I never had, you gave me." She rested her head on his shoulder. Above them, the old torn canopy framed in glass hung on the restaurant wall like a holy relic. Underneath it, written in Mama Hannah's shaky handwriting, were the words the whole world now knew by heart. "Never close your hand when someone is hungry. You never know whose tomorrow you are feeding today." And somewhere, a small girl who had just finished her plate looked up at her mother and asked, "Mummy, why does Grandma cry when she's happy?" The mother smiled, wiped a tear of her own, and answered, "Because some happiness is so big, the eyes have to help the heart carry it." That was the end. No more tears waiting to fall. No more empty chairs at the table. Only the quiet, perfect knowledge that kindness, given freely under a broken canopy, had built a palace of love that would outlive them all. And if you ever pass through Port Harcourt, stop at Kindness Restaurant. Order anything. The jollof is still the best in the city. Look up at the framed canopy on the wall. And remember, the greatest wealth is never the money you make. It is the number of broken people who became whole because you refused to let them eat alone. Kindness always, always comes home.